That's like awkward moment. Hey guys, Anna Krueger here. And I'm here with Analeisa, and we are both in Greenville, South Carolina, both at our separate houses today. All, however, together in spirit. So here we are, and we're super excited to work with you. It sounds like there's at least 100 people on the line in that ballpark. And I know a lot of people will be listening to the replay. So we're really excited to bring this value to you today. And honestly, it's one of our hottest topics. It's one of those things that when we're on another webinar and we just, the words in-office appointment roll off our tongue, everybody chats in and is like, what? Say that again. How do you do that? So this whole webinar today is going to be dedicated around how do you have buyers and sellers meet you at the office first. So Analeisa is going to introduce herself in just a second and tell us why she's talking about this topic with us. However, we both agreed that we will adapt to what you guys want. So we've touched on this topic before. Our plan is to go over, first of all, the mindset and why would you do an in-office appointment? What's the reason? What's the benefit? What do you get? What does the client get? Then we're going to talk through how do you set it up so that they come in and not resist that, right? Because a lot of them could say, if you're not using the right words, they could say, well, every other agent's meeting me at my house, so why should I come to your office? So we're going to talk through how do you have that conversation. Then we're going to go over how do you price a house without seeing it, and then how do you actually conduct the appointment once you're in the office, again, because you haven't seen the house if it's a listing, and then same thing on the buyer side. So that is our plan. However, if there's something that you want to learn about that I did not just mention, please type it into the chat box, because this is for you guys. It's not for us. So we will totally adjust our direction if needed. So Analeisa, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what team you came from, what you do now, and why you have credibility on this subject.
Awesome. So I'm Analeisa, just like Anna has said a couple times. Greenville, South Carolina. I'm on the Haro group. Whoop, whoop for them. If there's anybody listening, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Yes. Absolutely. I came into real estate in 2014, and the way I was trained was to do listing presentations in the office. I closed 75 homes my first 12 months, actually 78, homes my first 12 months. And then second 12 months in the business was able to close 83 transactions, seller transactions. And I also got to take 2 months off, maternity leave. So super high producing team with some awesome players on it. And that's why I'm super passionate about this subject, because if I hadn't done in-office presentations, those numbers would have been really hard to get to.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But in case you missed it, because Analeisa's humble and she kind of breezed through the numbers, but she closed 78 homes, 78 guys. How many of you would be happy to have 78 units your first year in real estate with no experience? Because you had not had real estate experience before, correct? In that, as far as being an agent.
No.
And so no experience coming in and doing 78 units your first year in office, mind you. And then what was it, 83 second year? And she mentioned it, that was with maternity leave. So that was not a full 12 months. And so clearly Analeisa knows how to get it done. And I know that second year, because we worked together, we were hiring and there was so much going on and she still had the 83 units. So really great job. And she knows how to do it. One thing I'd like to point out is that's how she was trained. And that's going to tap into the mindset. Some of you have not been trained that way, and you're used to driving to the house. And we're going to talk about how and why meeting in the office is better, multiple reasons. But realize that really the biggest determining factor is your mindset. So for Analeisa, because that's how she was trained, there is no like, yeah, we meet at the office. It's just what we do. And so we're going to talk today, how do you get to that mindset if you're not currently there? What if you've been trained a different way and now you're going to work on retraining your brain? So we'll touch on that today. So Anna, I'll share my background real quick as well. So I was the inside sales agent setting appointments for Analeisa. So I was usually the first one on the line introducing this idea of meeting at the office. My first year, we had 2 agents primarily, and then throughout the year, we added agents. And I had 85 closings in my first year, which was 46% of the whole team. And we did in-office appointments. And again, it was the same thing for me. It's just what we do. And knowing how to handle those objections. And so setting it, pre-qualifying them, and then I would run a comp to see, is this person out of their mind Or are they on the planet, you know, being rational about what they think their house is actually worth? And all of that was without seeing the house. So we'll get deep into that today. So Analeisa, tell us first, why bother, right? Why make the transition to in-office appointments versus meeting at the house? What are some of the benefits?
Okay, great question. Okay, first of all, we'll kind of build. So first of all, I think safety is a big thing there. We don't have to get much into that, but when you're in an environment that you can control safety-wise, obviously that's going to be a plus. It saves you tons of time, right? If I wanted to take a listing in this town, usually it takes 20 minutes to get pretty much anywhere. So 20 minutes one way, 40 minutes the next. And I realized there's probably people on here who are like, I would love a 20-minute drive. But that was 40 minutes that I could fit a whole nother consult into if they were coming to my space. I had the tools and technology that I wanted right at my fingertips. I didn't have to worry about what if my computer died while I was there, or what if the internet was kind of shoddy and I couldn't show comps very well. I had what I needed right there. Benefit there. And then I would say the biggest benefit to doing listing and presentations in the office is you control the environment. You control the distractions or really lack thereof. The few times I ended up in a house and there's kids running around or people want to show you all their great grandmother's beautiful furniture, you know, those are tough things. You just have to deal with them and roll with those punches. But when you're in an environment where you control everything, the chances of you converting are going to be much stronger.
Yeah. And actually, let's touch on that for a minute. Is a lot of people ask, what's a typical conversion rate? And I will share what typical national average is right now. So get your pens and papers ready. If you don't have them, you're about to get some takeaways. And then I'll share what our conversion rate was at the time that we were doing this to show not only does it work, you actually have a higher conversion rate. So from contact to appointment set, average is 5% across all lead sources. So that's about 1 out of 20 should set an appointment with you. Again, across all lead sources. So if you're primarily calling Circle or just listed, just sold, you're not probably going to hit that 5% unless you're just having a weirdly fantastic day. But 5% is across all lead sources. Once you set it, you can typically expect 70% to show up if you're good with your language and your setting expectations. When people come into the coaching program, we both work with the MAPS coaching program. We'll tell you more about that later. We usually see people come in around 40 to 50% conversion ratio. So that means at least half are not showing up. So that probably is the majority of you guys, because that seems to be typical in the industry, is I'm seeing 40 to 50% show ratio. Really, we should be getting you at 70%. Once they come in, signing ratio, I firmly believe you can get that to at least 80%. I know when I was setting for Analeisa, and Analeisa with her amazing, again, nothing that you haven't heard before, the bold scripts, a lot of the languages that you guys have probably heard if you've taken classes with us before, she usually would get a 90% or higher signing ratio. And Analeisa, correct me if I'm wrong, 90% or higher signing ratio meeting at the office. 80% is average. And again, I see a lot of people below that if they haven't had the coaching and training before. So it absolutely works. It's not just an opinion. It's not just this is more convenient. It's they show up and they imagine over 90% of your people signing. Imagine if you didn't set any more appointments, you didn't have any more show up, but the ones that showed up actually signed. Imagine what that would do in your business. And that's the power of meeting at the office. So I'll get back off my soapbox, but it's not just an opinion. It really does work. I want to highlight something Analeisa said about the emotional side of things. I'm thinking of a listing right now where I had gone to the house to just do a quick preview and just see real quick what it looked like. We don't do that anymore. When I first started, we did do it. So I went to this lady's house just to do like a quick run through. I was there for probably 45 minutes. She actually took me into every room and showed me her Christmas decorations. She actually cried in the kitchen about, she's talking about their Christmas traditions and how she makes this big pancake breakfast. And she was crying in the house. I remember telling Analeisa, be prepared when she comes in because she was very emotional in the house and this is hard for her. Well, when she was in the office in that more business environment, she was fine. No tears, very matter of fact, black and white. So you're removing objections by removing them from the house. And it makes it more of a logical, what do I need to do? And it doesn't just make our jobs easier. makes it easier for the client to think clearly because they're removing themselves from the emotion. Mm-hmm. So anything else to add to that, Analeisa?
No, I think you just hit on a really good point that we're just kind of coming full circle is that emotion piece. I mean, think about your own home. If I was sitting in my house and somebody came to talk to me to sell it, I'd be looking at the front door thinking that's where Caroline came through the door the first time when she came home from the hospital, and like all of these other things running through your head. And it's just difficult to focus and make a business decision. And that's what this is. This is business when you go to sell a home.
Right. And not just business on our end. It's a business transaction on their end. There's a financial reason that they're doing this, maybe an emotional reason that they're doing it. But at the end of the day, nobody thinks, well, I'll just sell my house and hopefully I'll make a couple bucks. You know what I mean? People are very serious about what they want to make when they sell their home. We want them to get in a business environment. Right. So that's a huge, huge value. Analeisa, tell everybody what your typical schedule was like, because I want people to see how you can lead generate in the morning. Mm-hmm. And when you have them come to the office, how many people you can actually fit in. Because mm-hmm. I know some people may have a limiting belief around there's so much going on. How am I going to make this work? So just walk us through what was a typical day in your life and how many people were you able to meet each week?
Okay, so typical day, get in at 8. We always had a great team meeting, inspiration time, reading time. Scripting followed that. Lead generation started at 9 o'clock and usually went to at least 12 o'clock. And that was our time.
Lead gen went from when to when?
9 to noon every day.
And what is your role? Are you an inside sales agent?
Oh, as a listing specialist.
Oh, were you the only one on the team doing that?
No, every single person.
Oh, there's a little book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. I think some of you may have heard of it. And Gary talks about lead generation is your number one most dollar productive activity. Number one most dollar productive activity, because that's where everything else comes from. So remember, Analeisa sold 78 homes her first year. That wasn't meaning that all day long, all she did was meet with sellers. She was still lead generating. She didn't meet with anybody before noon. Mm-hmm. And I can testify to that because I worked with her. Mm-hmm. So no meetings occurred before noon. Okay, keep going.
Cool. Sometimes a quick lunch, or if somebody needed to meet me in the office for a listing presentation on their lunch break, then that's what we made happen. But pretty much I would have a half-hour buffer between appointments so that I could prep for what was coming in and be really clear on what that seller was going to need. But you know, that means you can do a 1 o'clock until 2, and then you can do a 2:30 until 3:30, and then you can do a 4. So that's 3 a day at least if you don't go into the evenings. And that was Monday through Friday. That's what the schedule looked like, hoping that we would have 3 appointments consistently in the afternoons, if not more.
Yeah. And so guys, what that means is, and I'm sure you guys can do the math on this, we're all relatively intelligent people here, right? That's 15 appointments just in the afternoons, Monday through Friday, without evenings and weekends. Mm-hmm. That's what that was. So it is possible. You can fit people into the schedule that you want. It doesn't mean, and I know Analeisa would have times that she would do a Saturday appointment or, you know, let me stay a little later. But I also know that she was really serious about her time with her husband. I would see it on her calendar. Like, this is her time with Steven. She's not taking appointments at that time. Mm-hmm. And so she fit all of this in primarily during a typical work day. Mm-hmm. And so it is possible. It's something that takes good scripting, and we'll get into some of that in just a little bit. Mm-hmm. So Analeisa, one question that we get all the time when we're talking about this is, how do you price a house without seeing it first? And I get that, because I used to wonder the same thing. How are we going to do this when we're not actually seeing the house? Mm-hmm. Tell us, how did you do that? And how often would you have to change the price after meeting with them?
Okay, great question. So I would say first, I had some really amazing training and coaching around it. So that, I mean, that is a huge thing. Beyond that, it's a lot of yes.
Where did you get that? Like, what was it? If people are thinking, I need that.
Yeah, great question. A lot of it came from my Rainmaker from Haro. A lot of it, frankly, came from Anna, because she knew, like, she was a great salesperson and knew it's scripting. Everything you do in sales is about a script. And so that was it. And then, you know, following, like, shadowing, getting hands-on with somebody who was doing this at a high level. I would say is the learning.
Okay. I think you froze for a second, Analeisa. In fact, you still look frozen to me. I don't know if y'all can hear me. So say that last little bit again in case it was frozen for everybody.
Okay, beautiful. So most of my training coaching came from, like I said, the Rainmaker, Haro, who had been doing in-office appointments consistently as well. But then everything in sales is about scripts. So I got a lot of actually awesome scripting from Anna. I would say it was a big piece of my learning at the Haro group on those types of, on doing these things, on those specific scripts. And then just hands on the, boots on the ground, shadowing somebody who is doing this already at a high level was another big source of training and learning for me as it relates to that. Okay, so getting back to the question, yes. How do you do it? So a lot of it beyond the coaching and the training is about asking questions. That's sales, asking good questions. So on the call that Anna would have with them when she was setting the appointment, very much focus on what the house was like. So understanding what updates have been done. Did you add square footage? Just like really digging into those details. Questions. A lot of times when a house is selling, you can find a previous listing on the MLS. So you can see what the photos looked like then. You can pull it up on Google Earth and see, what the outside looks like. Knowing if it's in a cul-de-sac, like there's just so many pieces of research that you can do just on the internet in this regard. And then again, asking the seller those questions, hardwood floors, carpet, what do you love about the house? What would you update if you chose to stay? Just really getting to the heart of understanding every aspect of the house or what those questions are intended to do.
Yeah, that's perfect. And what I'll do, I'm going to give you guys some of the key rocks that you want to ask people so that you're prepared to figure out the house. Analeisa just gave several, but I'm going to slow it down for a minute so you guys can write it down. And if I miss something, Analeisa, just let me know. But really, first and foremost, we're going to assume that you already have their motivation. That's really the first thing you always ask about. That doesn't have to do with pricing a house, though. So I'm not going to go into that. Just do understand, though, that first you need their motivation. Once you have that, you're going to say, great, let's see what we need to do to get this home sold for you. And that's like your transition into now the actual pre-qual. So again, it's let's see what we need to do to help you achieve the motivation. So they understand now there's a change in the conversation. Now I'm about to get logical with you. So let's see what we need to do to make this happen for you. You're going to ask about square footage, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, things like that are pretty typical. What I found very crucial was to say on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate the condition of your home? And you say 0 to 10 because if you say 0, you don't have to say 0 is low and 10 is high. You just say on a scale of 0 to 10, and they know 0 is low, how would you rate your home? And what I find is everybody is a little different with their discretion, right? So I'm not looking for if it's below a 5, oh no, what are we going to do? Because a 5 to me might be a 7 to Analeisa. The idea is I just want to get an idea, a way of creating a gap. So I'm going to say on a scale of 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, how would you rate your home? They're going to give me whatever number. And then we're going to say, okay, great. What would make it a 10? And that will tell me, they might have said it's a 5, but what would make it a 10 is granite countertops and hardwood floors. Well, that's not really that big of a deal. Or someone else might say, well, to make it a 10, I need to get a new roof. I need the AC needs repair. And I'm just going to be writing all this stuff down so that when I give it to Analeisa, she knows what's up at the house. So scale 0 to 10, what's the condition of your home? What would make it a 10? And you want to explain, by the way, that a 10 is it's show ready. People could come to your house tomorrow and walk through, and you would be proud of the way that it looks. Where would you put it? Another big key thing that you want to ask, and write these questions down, because this is really vital. How you ask financial questions will make a big difference, because sometimes sellers think that when you're asking, what do you want to earn on the home? There are some skeptical ones out there that they will think, what are you just trying to see the lowest I'll sell my home for? So let me give you the way that you ask about financial questions that I found worked really well, and it disarmed them and usually made them pretty comfortable. So Analeisa, how about you be a seller for a second?
Perfect.
So we're already on the phone. We already went through the condition of our house. So Analeisa, my goal is to make you as much money as possible on this house. That helps you. That helps your neighborhood. And quite frankly, it helps us too. We all stand to benefit from your house selling for as much money as possible. Yet I want to know what you absolutely must have, or just when it makes sense to move. Because if we can't get you that number, we actually are not going to list your home.
Mm.
I'm going to pause for a minute. The psychology behind that is, I mean, first of all, I'm not just giving it as a line. If we can't make them happy, we're not going to list the house, because this house is going to expire, or it's just, they're not going to be happy with what they're getting. But it's also different than what they're expecting. It's almost like the takeaway of, if we can't help you get the house, we're just not going to take it on as a listing. We'd rather tell you now than to let you down later.
Mm.
It is a bit of a, now we're on a more mutual ground. It's not a, I want your listing, I want your listing, I want your listing. It's more of a, I want to help you, and I'll only help you if I can legit help you. Make sense? So with that in mind, Analeisa, how much do you think your home is worth?
Probably around the 250 mark, I would say.
Perfect. And what makes you think it's worth 250?
Well, when we bought it about 3 years ago, we paid about 225, and the market's increased, from what I hear anyway. So I guess that feels like the right number.
Okay, perfect. And pause there. That tells me she hasn't done a ton of research. I'm trying to see, is she basing it off Zillow? Is it because she's done research? Has other realtors told her?
Hmm.
Where did this number come from? Well, I know from her answer just there, she's probably not married to the number, because she's like, I don't know, it just seems like it would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me a little insight into how serious is Analeisa about this 250 number. So that's, again, why we say, so what makes you think it's worth 250?
Yeah.
So back to the role play.
Mm-hmm.
So Analeisa, how much do you want to walk away? So what I mean by that is, we've closed on the home, you've paid off your mortgage, you've paid any attorney fees, all that stuff, and you're walking away with a wad of cash in your pocket. How much money do you want to make?
About 50,000, because that's what we want to put down on the new house.
Okay, and what makes 50,000 the number that you think you need to put down on your new house?
Because it's 20% of what the new house is going to be, and that's what we want to put down, is 20%.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to pause again. The reason I said what makes you think you need 50 is I now know she thinks she needs 20% down. Is it true that you always have to have 20% down on a house?
Nope.
Oh, there's a lot of loan options. Now, I'm not going to get into that right now. There's no point. That's what the appointment's for. But the reason I'm asking these questions of why do you need 50 and what makes that number important to you is my brain is going to, if we run comps after this call and see her house is only worth 235 and she thought it was worth 250, what she really wants is to be able to get into the next house with a loan, and it probably is going to be tied to, I got to ask her some more questions, but tied to a mortgage payment amount or something. So it's not that I need to necessarily get her 20% down on her next house. It's probably more that I need to help her find a financing option that allows her to buy a next house,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why we ask, why 50? What makes it that number for you? That's why we ask these questions. I wish I could see you all, because I'm asking, does this make sense? And Analeisa, of course, is like, yeah, because I hope this is making sense to all of you out there listening. Okay, so perfect. So it sounds like you want 50,000, because that's what it'll take for you to have 20% down on your next home. Now, question, Analeisa, and I'm not saying that this will happen. I haven't even looked up your house.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it's worth like $1 million for all I know. However, what happens if it was 35 versus 50? What would you do?
Well, I mean, we'd have to think, but we need to be in this new house. We're outgrowing it. There really isn't another option. So we'd have to figure it out. We have to sell.
Okay, perfect. All right. And so what would you say is the absolute lowest number you could have for it to still make sense? And again, hopefully I'll get you way more than that. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure I know what we absolutely must get you for this to work for you.
I mean, we could probably do with 30,000, because we do have some in savings that we could put towards it.
Okay, perfect. And again, my goal is to help you earn as much money as possible, but I really appreciate you sharing that all with me, because it gives us a sense of what you absolutely must have. And again, we want to help you get as much as possible. So perfect. Anything else that I should know about your financials before we move on?
I don't think so. I think that covers it. You know, obviously, like you said, we need to make a lot of money, and we're, trusting whoever we end up working with to help us with that. But I think that covers it.
Absolutely. Perfect. So I, as the person setting the appointment, is going to write down on the paper, key is to make as much money as possible. I mean, it's kind of normal. That will help Analeisa know when she goes on this appointment to really drive in and say the words, make as much money as possible. So I look at it kind of like we're playing basketball and I'm throwing the ball to Analeisa to do a layup. So any verbiage that I can give her that's important to this client, anything at all that's going to help her know how to relate to them and tell them exactly what's important to them, I need to document that so she walks in aware. Okay. That will also help her not overshare, because if they don't ask about marketing and they don't seem like they care about marketing, they never said the word marketing, Analeisa doesn't need to spend 15 minutes talking about marketing. She could lose the client. So I'm going to put down, make as much money as possible, because that's what they want. And if she can show them that, they'll probably sign. Okay. Anything that I left out, Analeisa, that you want to add?
No, it was perfect. I love it.
All right. So we're going to ask about condition. We're going to really drill into their finances. And again, the key wording is, my goal is to make you as much money as possible. Yet I want to know your absolute must-have, or when it makes sense. And I do find if you can make them laugh as you're talking about money, it will help a lot. So that's why I said, hopefully I can make you like $1 million on this house. And if you noticed, even in the role play, it made Analeisa laugh. We're going to be in better rapport. Sometimes I like to throw in there if they seem stressed about the conversation, which they do sometimes. I like to say, you know, I know on my house that I've paid $200 for. I sure hope I got $3 million for it when I sell it. And I mean, they pretty much always laugh, and it just reduces the tension. If you're noticing tension in the financial conversation, just throw in a little something that might make them laugh and be kind of outlandish about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've gotten all the financials. We know the condition of their home. You're looking up old MLS pictures. What do you do if there are no MLS pictures? What if they last bought it in 1970 and it's been forever?
I mean, again, that's where your question asking comes in. So I'm going to probably sit down in front of them and go over some of what they said to the appointment setter. You know, like we say we have this flooring. Where's this hole? Like, I need this more information from you. So it just, I mean, really, it sounds simple, but it just comes back to the questions that you're asking. Like, you need to know what the kitchen's like. You need to know if the bathrooms have been redone. Like, as a realtor, you know really what those selling points are going to be for buyers in your market right now. And that's what you've got to center your information around.
Yep. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and Analeisa, let's make you a seller again. And I'm going to set an appointment with you. Okay. You have a question in the box about what do you do if you use the scripts and then they resist. So why don't you be a little skeptical, like, well, everyone else is meeting me at my house, because that's very normal. Yeah. And I'll just demonstrate how you would work your way through that. Okay. But I will say, though, guys, the script I'm about to give you, write down. Also, this is recorded. And so if you want to make a note in your notes at minute 28 in, you can listen to this recording again tomorrow and get it again and re-listen to this multiple times. What I find is the script I'm about to use, if you say it with confidence, just like the sky is blue, you know, my name is Anna, we're meeting at the office, that right there actually reduces them. It actually prevents them from coming up, because I'm just saying it very much like, well, it's just what we do. So that will help reduce it. Okay, so I've got Analeisa's motivation. I've asked her about condition, house details, pricing, and now I'm going to go into the next step. So Analeisa, really your next step is to come in and meet with Haro at the office. And when we meet, we're going to do 3 things. The first thing is we're going to go back over your motivation and price to make sure that you guys are on the same page. The second thing is you're going to interview Haro. Make sure it's a good fit. Make sure you like the guy and that you guys are a good fit to work together. And then the third thing, if everything looks good, we're going to have you sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions?
I mean, it all sounds good, but what I can't figure out is this Haro person, why is he not coming to me? Why am I coming to you?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we find that we can provide a better level of service meeting at the office. We're actually going to pull up comps with you while you're in office, and you're going to help us make the pricing decision on your house. Instead of us coming to your house and just saying, here's what your house is worth, you're actually going to do that together with Haro here in the office.
So I have all these other agents that are coming to my house, though. I'm still kind of confused.
Yeah. So I will admit to you, a lot of agents will come to your house, but we do things differently, and that's part of how we get different results. We usually earn our clients 3.6% more of their asking price than the average agent in the area. And part of that is because we do things differently.
Okay. Okay. I mean, sure. I guess we'll give it a try.
Perfect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically how you would navigate around that. Truthfully, Analeisa just gave me more objections than I usually found doing this in real life. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't even that many.
Right.
I really truly find, guys, when you're doing the pattern of motivation first, because when you go over motivation, they bond with you. And you're getting into, why do you want to do this? What makes it important to you? What difference will this make in your life to move? That's a lot of work. You're getting into a bonded relationship because you're asking those questions. Then you pre-qualify them at a high level. That builds trust. I wouldn't trust a doctor that didn't ask me any of my symptoms and just slapped a prescription at me, right? So because you're slowing down and you're asking like 6 financial questions plus 1,000 other ones, it's building confidence. Like, this chick seems to know what she's talking about. She's asking me a lot of good questions. Then when you get down to, okay, the next step is, it's not if you feel like it or what we usually do, or, you know, if it works for you in your schedule. Okay, guys, if you went to the chiropractor and you were having back problems and he said, you know, if it works for you, I could do an x-ray. What do you think? Do you want to do that? I'd be like, yeah, I gotta go. I need to go find another chiropractor. You don't seem so sure about this. So it's with confidence. It's okay. Your next step is to come in, and I'm going to repeat the 3 steps so that you guys can write it down. And notice that I'm saying it with a downswing. I'm making my voice go down like a statement. It's not so then you're going to sign paperwork. I'm saying with confidence. You're going to sign paperwork to activate the next step. Okay. So here's the 3 things that we're going to do. It's number 1, we're going to go back over motivation and price, make sure we're on the same page. Number 2, interview each other to make sure it's a mutually good fit. And you can have fun with them. If they're kind of a fun personality, you can say, listen, if you think he's crazy, don't work with him. But I think you're going to love him. He's fantastic. Then number 3, if everything looks good, we're going to have you sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? Mm-hmm. Again, any questions? I think part of why the signing ratio is so high, again, 90% or more are signing with us on the listing side. And by the way, on the buyer side, it was 95% or more at the time, is because you're setting the expectation that they'll sign paperwork, and you're not making it sound scary. I'm not saying you're going to sign a contract. I'm not saying you're going to sign some legal agreement. I'm not using all these big, scary terms. I'm just saying, if everything looks good, you will sign paperwork to activate the next step. You could also say, give you access to all of our resources, like the stager. If they're a buyer, you could say that'll activate us putting you on the MLS so you're kicked houses within 2 hours of it coming on the market. So you want to let it be known, signing paperwork will kick the next step into action. And now it makes more sense. Well, yeah, I want the next step to happen, or I want access to the stager. And you're also not making it sound scary. So the next step, if everything looks good, we'll have you sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? Cool. Feel like I've been talking a lot. Analeisa, anything else to add to that? In a minute, it's all coming to you because you're going to talk about how to do the appointment. So anything else on setting it?
No, the confidence thing is like, that's the jam right there. You just act like, I've always done this. And of course, yeah, like Anna said at the beginning, easy for me to say because that is what I always have done. But you get what you expect. If you expect them to come to the office, that's what you get.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the question of, what do you do if you're doing all the right stuff, but they're just refusing? That line, I'll say it again in case you missed it. I know that this is different, but that's part of how we get different results. The key here is you do need to know something about your team. Otherwise, they could think it's just fluff, right? So if you notice, what was said is, we do things differently, and I admit that. However, that's part of how we get different results. In fact, we usually earn our clients 3.6% more of their asking price than other agents in the area. I just paid for my commission in saying that sentence, right? And so one gap that I see a lot through the coaching program that we work with is a lot of people love their team. They think they're fantastic. That feels like their family. They love the culture. But if we say, what's your days on market versus the area average? I don't know. Or what's your average list price to sales price ratio compared to the other realtors in your area? I don't know. So make sure that you know things like your list price to sales price ratio, again, compared to others in your area. Otherwise, it doesn't really hold value, right? If I say we are 99% of asking price, that actually could sound like, well, why aren't you getting 100, right? But if I say we're getting 99% of asking price, other realtors in the area average 95. Well, now that gives context. So make sure days on market, list price to sales price. Another thing you could highlight would be if you have, and I hope that you have people writing you reviews, you could say, I know this is different, part of how we get different results. In fact, if you Google us right now, you'll see that we have a 5-star average rating with 100 some reviews. Clearly what we do works. Feel free to check that out. So make sure that you have some data about your team that you can share. If you're new and you're thinking, well, I don't have any data, I've sold one house, you can use your brokerage. A lot of you on here are with Keller Williams. Use your market centers data. That's your team. Maybe you're new, but you're part of the team. You're part of the family of your brokerage. So you can share some of that data. Anything else to add, Analeisa, if they're resisting or just saying, I'm not going to do it?
No, I think that, I mean, that's it. You got to know your value. And the reviews, the days on market showing, yes, it's different. And that's why we have these results that we.
Yeah. And I'll say too, if somebody just refuses to meet at the office, and we've done all the stuff, I've given all the reasons, and hopefully Analeisa, I'm not talking over you, you look for but if they are resisting, you do have to make a decision of, am I going to meet with this person or not? And that is a personal choice. If you're new and you've never taken a listing, you might decide, you know what, I'm just going to do it. It's not ideal. I wish the in-office thing had worked, but I'm just going to do it. That's a choice you can make, and that's fine. I know my personal standard was, if they're not willing to meet here, we're probably just not the right fit to work together, and I'm going to refer them to another agent. And again, that's a personal choice. The only thing that I think would change that is if they couldn't drive, or, you know, something medical, you know, that might make a difference, but generally speaking, no exceptions. Okay, we have a great question on the buyer side, because we're talking listings right now, but we do also meet buyers in office. So how about property specific? Yeah, they want to meet at the property as opposed to the office. So a great way around that is to say, great, we will actually go see that property today. First, we're going to meet at the office and get everything in a row, so that if you love that house and want to write an offer, there's nothing holding us back. There's a couple pieces, you know, there's some paperwork we need to get in order. Plus, there might be some houses that you just haven't seen yet that you might like even more, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. And that usually works just fine. You could also share, and I'll tell you my personal story, and I don't care if you use it. You can say, one of my colleagues had this happen to her, because I'm your colleague. We work in real estate together. But I was that person. I was about 2 minutes from the house I wanted to see, and my buyer's agent was 20 minutes downtown, 20 minutes back. And I was kind of annoyed, okay? So I used to tell people that and say, the only reason I met with him is because he was my friend, and I was like, fine. But inwardly, I was like, the house is 2 minutes away. Why would I do that? And it was the best decision ever, because we met for about 30 minutes and he put me on a search, and the house that I actually bought is way better than the one I called him about. And I'm really glad that he had me meet him first, or I would have missed out on it. So I understand, and it really is in your best interest. Also, we find that when we meet people at the office first, they only usually need to see between 3 and 6 houses to find the one that they want. When you don't meet at the office, they usually need to see 12 or more. That's a common statistic. So if you get the objection, well, I don't understand, it seems like a waste of time to meet you, their value is time, right? Because they're saying, I don't want to waste time by meeting you first. So you overcome that by showing how it will save them time. You know, meeting with me one time could save us from looking at twice as many houses, because I'll get very clear on what exactly you want. So it will ultimately save you time by meeting on the front end. And that's typically how you would come across that. I see some questions in here about lead sources. We'll come back to that at the end, since it's a little bit off topic, but we're not ignoring you. We'll come back to it if we have time. Okay, so now we're in the appointment. We've pre-qualified them. They agreed to meet us in the office. How do you conduct the appointment now that they're in front of you? You haven't seen the house.
Yeah. So obviously, once you sit down with somebody, you're gonna review the motivation. I always review the motivation with them. Anna tells me this, you know, and then asking any clarifying questions. But once you get through that, The biggest part of the presentation, the meat, is when you are showing them the comps. And that's, again, one of the reasons you want them in there. You're pulling up real-time data. The market changes every day. In this business, we know that. It changes every hour. It changes probably every minute. So being prepared to pull up the comps. So I would often prepare ahead of time, a neighborhood search, a radius search. I knew where I was going with the comps, but then I would show them the process in front of me. Here's the MLS. Here's what the MLS is if we need to be that basic. Here's the comps that I'm going to show you for your home. Here's how I arrived at these comps. And then, Mr. Seller, put on your buyer hat, if you would, for me for a minute. We're going to go through the pictures of some of these comps, and I want you to tell me, how does your house compare? Are we like way better than what we're seeing? Or maybe we're not quite as great, or we might be on par. So put on your buyer hat as objectively as possible. And as we go through these photos, tell me what you're seeing. So pull out a couple properties that you want to look through with them. Of course, you've prepared all this beforehand, so you're not stabbing in the dark. And then at the end of that exercise, you say to them, all right, this house at 123 Main Street, you told me, is maybe a little nicer than yours. And this house at 456 Center Street, you know, here's how it compares with what you told me. This is what this one sold for per square foot. This is what this one sold for per square foot. Knowing that, where would you price your home? And getting them to have that buy-in alongside you. You're not telling them the number. They're actually telling you. And if you've done your homework and you've presented your value and the value of what you're seeing on the screen, it's easy. They tell you what they need to price the house at.
Yeah. And I love that process, because you're not just taking some papers or printouts and putting it down in front of them. Whenever you can ask a question to help someone come to their own conclusion, you get way more buy-in than telling. Mm-hmm. You want to ask, not tell. And that's really what Analeisa is saying. They literally picture a big screen up, and you're literally going through house by house. They can't deny or argue what they're seeing in real life. Mm-hmm. That's also part of why we can list it and price it accurately without seeing it. Mm-hmm. Because even if I went to the house, or if Analeisa went to the house, if I ran through that house in 15 minutes or even 5 hours worth of looking at the house, they will know the house better because they live in it. Mm-hmm. So someone with eyes that knows that house is going to be looking at comps. It's actually the seller's eyes looking at comps mm-hmm. and ours. But even if we looked at it, they're still going to know more. And so when we're doing that, is yours better than this one, lesser than this one, they're going to know better than we would, even mm-hmm. if we walked through it. So that's one thing you can say when you're setting it. If you get pushback, say, you know, you're actually going to look at comps with me, and you're going to know the house better. Even if I looked at it, you would still know it better than I would. Mm-hmm. That's how you can do that. Yeah. So Analeisa, the process then is they agree to list with you. They sign over 90% of the time, because you're awesome. They're going to sign. And then how often, well, let me ask it this way. What's the process after they sign? Do we ever see the house? Mm-hmm. Ever see it? And then how often do you have to adjust the price after they agree?
Great question. So we set up the presentation, and this happens before we look at comps, talking about how we have a 2-step process for pricing the home. The first is, like I just went through, going through the comps with them. Second step of that process is to send in a stager, a property specialist, whatever you want to call this individual. And maybe that's you if you don't have that person. And that's the second step. Even if it's you, you already have a signature on a paper, you know there's commitment there, and so it's worth your time. But the stager goes in, or you go in and you identify, you know, here's what we need to do to really make it ready for the market. And we set the expectation up front. Listen, we've done the best we can in this time that we've had together today to price this house. And when the property specialist comes to see the house, they're going to give you tips and tricks to get it in tip-top shape. And then, you know, if we need to make an adjustment after that time, usually we don't. About 95% of the time we nail it on the first time. But if we need to make an adjustment at that point, that's a conversation that you and I will have together. And so, Anna, your next question was, how often did we have to adjust the price? Very infrequently. You know, thankfully, the market was fabulous. The homes sold quickly. We knew quickly if there needed to be an adjustment. I would say one particular instance comes to mind. The couple came in. We priced the house. The stager went. and they're heavy smokers. And so that showed up in the house, and I had missed that. So it was a conversation. I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was the right thing to do, to just say, listen, this is what the stager had come to me and said, and here's what I think we need to do about it. Ultimately, we gained that commitment from them, and the situation worked itself out.
Yeah, that's really good. And what I find too is sometimes people, even if in the initial appointment, they're not loving the pricing and they want to go to someone else, the house will expire and they'll realize Analeisa was right. And the process was right? Like, put anybody's name in there that follows this process. Many times they'll realize they told me that I'm just going to go back to them now because I should have listened the first time. So there might be times that people don't quite jive, or they're not willing to do the work. And many times they'll realize later that it was, I mean, we want to take the listing. We're not going to tell them to do something or ask them to do something that doesn't make sense. Okay. We have a couple questions about the scripts. And so let's take a minute and talk through, because whenever we do something like this, people, okay, how did you do that? How did you get to the level you're at? And one cool thing I don't think we mentioned at the beginning is we both now are coaches full-time with MAPS. So this is what we do. This is our one thing, is we work with people on lead conversion and lead generation. The program that we're with is called ISA MAPS Coaching. However, it's really lead gen coaching. So Analeisa, I know you have several clients that are actually listing agents or buyer agents. You do not have to be an inside sales agent, because at the end of the day, inside sales is the name of the program, but it's really lead gen and lead conversion. So we work with a program. Every week there's a 1-hour webinar. This week we talk about expireds. We already did that. You also get 2 coaching calls a month. So Analeisa, if someone's interested to talk with you about coaching, to learn, okay, how do I get to a 90% signing ratio, or tell me more about these scripts, how do they get in touch with you?
Great question. So the first place I would say is our website. It's isamapscoaching.com. There's some great webinars if you want to listen to us more, and that's how you can get in contact with us. And then my direct email, I'll give real quick. It's ajdlatham with an M at the end @gmail.com, and I'm happy to field questions that way as well.
Yep. And I'm actually going to show the, if I can, I think I can. I'm going to tell me, Analeisa, if you're seeing the right thing. Can you see the website right now?
I sure can.
Perfect. So we're going to get back to the topic in just a minute, but hang with me, guys. What you would do is come here and hit talk to a coach, and you actually are going to get me or Analeisa or maybe Katie, maybe Rebecca, one of us that actually works with the program, not some other place. It's actually going to come to one of us that's in the coaching program. So that's where you would go if you want more information. If you click on ISA program, there's a video here that talks about how it works. And if this is the first time you've been on a webinar, a couple of you've typed in, this has been great, thank you so much. You can come here and there's a whole history of webinars. Like if you look, here's how to hire, train, and retain. Here's Tim and I. We had to do this video, by the way, about 6 times because we kept laughing. Here's Haro and I talking about building the right habits. There's a lot of really awesome stuff on here. How to pass a client from the ISA to the agent. How do you do that well? So if you haven't seen that website, you can absolutely go there and do it. Okay, let me stop sharing the screen. Is it still sharing?
I can still see me on your screen, so yeah.
I stopped sharing. Oh, it's down here at the bottom. This is a different platform than normal. I was like, where's the red button? Listen, guys, I sell houses. I do not do tech, okay? All right. So let's get back to it. So anyway, if you're interested in coaching, you can reach out to me directly, mapscoachanna@gmail.com, or honestly, truly, the best place to get the fastest response is the website. We have someone that helps us make sure we're keeping track of people that come in and they're getting a quick response. So that's how you do it. Okay, so let's go back to the question box here. Okay, we have a question. Prior to doing the market analysis, are you presenting what kind of marketing programs you offer?
Not really. So marketing, in my opinion, comes after that. If we're not going to agree on price and they're going to be like total hang up about that, I'm not going to waste my time, frankly. But yes, after that, we would talk about marketing and run through the programs that we would offer at that point.
Well, and one thing that you can do when you're setting it is to just ask them, what are you looking for in a real estate agent?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you should ask them that. I didn't go over the whole pre-qual script, but that's one of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to get filled out. What are you looking for in a realtor? By the way, they usually say things like, someone that will talk to me on a regular basis and sell my house. And that's a great opportunity to joke with them, get them laughing. You want someone that communicates and sells your house? You are so unreasonable. And they usually laugh. And again, that makes them want to work with you. So Haro always told me, be funny, make money. You don't have to be a comedian. I'm not a comedian, but if anything you can do to get them laughing will help you. So ask them, well, what is it that you are looking for in a realtor? What do you want to know when you meet with Analeisa? Mm-hmm. Just write it down. And if they don't talk about marketing, don't bring it up. Mm-hmm. Once they agree to sign with you, just stop talking. Just get the signature because they've gotten what they need. Mm-hmm. We have all probably been in meetings before where someone's going on and on and on about something and you're sitting there thinking, I don't care about this, right? And so the way you prevent that from happening with your clients is to just say, what is important to you? What are you looking for in a realtor? And if they don't bring it up and it's not something that you feel they absolutely must know, you don't need to bring it up. Would you agree, Analeisa? And
yes. Totally. And the question came in, like, are you getting commitment before you're giving the benefit? Am I frozen?
No, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. Commitment before benefit. No, I'm going to ask for commitment at the end. I mean, for like commitment to sign on a piece of paper, I'm going to ask for commitment to a number at that point after we go through it. But I'm not asking for ultimate signature on a paper before I run through all the programs that we're going to offer them in the time on the market.
Perfect. And again, we're having questions about scripts coming in. Just if you have questions, just go to talk to a coach. And we can talk about that and get you what you need through that avenue. So just go there. That's how we can get your info to get that sent out. The chat box, there's too much going on in there. So just go to talk to a coach and we'll get on the phone with you, or you can tell us when you submit, there's an opportunity to tell us what you're looking for. You can say, hey, I'm looking for this thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. What other questions do we have, if any? Okay, I think we got all those. So let's talk about buyer real quick because we did mostly focus on seller. With buyer, again, it's the same basic script of what's your motivation? What are you looking for in a home? So the pre-qual questions are different. We're going to ask, what are you looking for? How are you going to pay? Do you have a home you need to sell? You know, you're going to ask the standard pre-qual questions that most of you are probably familiar with. And then it's the same script. Okay, our next step is to meet together. We're going to go back over your motivation and price range, interview each other to see if it's a good fit, and then sign paperwork to activate the next step. You could at that point add in there that will also give us the ability to go out and look at homes. Mm-hmm. So we're going to sign paperwork to activate the next step and give us the ability to go look at homes. One thing that's really important in getting the signature is to hold back value. You should definitely, in fact, this could be a homework item for you guys, is you should have a column of value adds that customers get. Customers are the general public. Customers are people that haven't agreed to work with you. So there should be something that customers get and then something that clients get. I almost look at it like a relationship, right? If you're dating, you're not married. So there's different things. We're not sharing a bank account if we're dating. We're sharing one if we're married, at least most of the time, right? So, I mean, there's different things that happen depending on what stage of the relationship you're in. It actually decreases your value if you give away too much too soon. And this could be a this could be a different kind of webinar. But the point I'm making is there's value in holding something back, right? It keeps the value of, well, why should I meet with you? If you're giving everything away and you're like, here's all of our resources, here's our stager, here's our this, that, and other thing. Let me put you on an MLS search before we've even met and agreed to work together. Why would they meet with you? There's absolutely no reason to. If I called my doctor and said, I don't feel well, he said, great, I'll send a prescription to Walgreens for you right now. And by the way, let's set an appointment for tomorrow at 3 o'clock so you can pay me $50. Why would I do that? There's no reason for me to do that. I already got what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So in the buyer world, what I found before they met with us, say that they were 6 months out or 9 months out, I might say, you know what I can do is put you on a general search for your area. It's not as good as what the buyer agent will do when you're closer to being ready, but it'll at least get you familiar with the area. So give me the broad overview of what you're looking for. And if they said, I want hardwood floors, 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a privacy fence, at least a ½ acre, I might say, okay, I'm going to put you down for 3 bedrooms, 2-bath with at least a ½ acre. Things like fence, things like hardwood floors, that stuff that the agent will do, he can put you on a much better, much more specific search than I can, even though I technically could. But we're going to wait to do that until you meet with the agent. But for now, I'll at least get some stuff headed your way so you can get to know the market. Okay, great. That was their response. It wasn't I don't ever remember one time somebody giving me pushback on that. In fact, usually they would reply and say, oh, thank you so much for sending these to me. So again, general search, but I'm not putting them all the way down to the specifics. I'm holding back value. Okay. That's the idea. What are some other value adds, Analeisa, that we could wait until they've signed to give either on buyer side or seller side?
I mean, for the seller side, photography, staging, getting them on like a real-time update of their neighborhood too, and the comps that we have with them. And I think you hit the ones on the buyer side fairly well.
Yeah. And even vendors, there might be some vendors that you would just give to anybody. But there's other, like the stager, the photographer, just keep some of them only for your clients. And guys, it's not just so that there's a reason for them to meet with you or there's a reason for them to sign with you. If you think about it, if you're talking to a seller and they haven't agreed to meet, they haven't all this, and you've said, great, you know what? You told me you're doing work on your house. How about, let me just get you in touch with our stager. What if they never agree to work with you? And now a buyer from your team wants to go see that house? You actually hurt your buyer by giving advice and giving access to resources to someone that wasn't committed to working with you. It's almost like saying, here, let me give you everything you need to make your house more difficult for our buyer to get it. But you don't have to work with us. So again, there might be some vendors, like if they need a tree taken down, tell them the tree guy vendor that you have. That's fine. But if it's something that would actually help them get their house ready or anything like that, I really encourage you wait until you've met with them. Now you'll have some people, and this was very common, well, I don't want to meet with you because I'm working on getting my house ready. And my response to that is, oh, this is actually perfect. We would rather meet with you before you get your house ready, because we've seen a lot of people put money into their home and it wasn't the area that they reached the return. I would like to help you point your money at the right thing so you get the most return for your investment. So that's actually, we prefer to meet with you before you get the house ready. So it's fine if you're a couple months out, we'd rather meet with you now. And that usually worked really well. Anything else to add to that, Analeisa? Because this is really your specialty.
No, I mean, that's perfect. Like I remember one time I had a client who had like put this random porch on the front of their house and their kitchen still looked like it was from the 1960s. And if they had come to us first, obviously we could have reversed that. But yeah, I mean, you hit that really well.
Yeah. I remember one time, I don't know why this stuck out to me so well, but it did. I think because it was just so, I just don't want to talk. I don't want to tell this person, but they were so proud, because they tore up their driveway and poured a new driveway. And they were just so proud of it. And I remember thinking, like, I just don't even know how to have this. I'm so glad Analeisa is going to meet with this one because I don't know what to say. That's not going to help them out. So the point is, and you can tell people that. You can say, we've had clients that tell us what they've done to the house. And in reality, they either broke even or maybe lost money. And we'd rather help you make money. So let's meet now before you do the work. I'll give you one last parting line that helped set a lot of appointments, and then we'll take any other last questions. So if you have a question, type it in now because we're almost out of time. One of the things I found that helped set appointments for sellers and buyers is if they were within 6 months for the seller or 3 months for the buyer. That was my personal cutoff. So if they were 8 months out, let's not do it yet. If they were within 6 months to sell or 3 months to buy, we would say to me, and sometimes they'd be, but I'm not quite ready, or I'm still 4 months out. And the line for that is, you know what, that's fine. We're actually just meeting to make a game plan. It does not mean that you're listing your house tomorrow. The meeting is simply to see if we are a good fit to work together. And if so, we'll start giving you access to our resources and get a game plan together. It by no means means that you are buying a house tomorrow or selling a house tomorrow. And I found that often helped people like, okay, good. Because I don't know where it comes from, It's actually always confused me why people have this perception, but it seems to be that people think if I meet you, that means I'm listing my house next week or tomorrow. And that's not what it means. We'd rather meet with you well in advance to prepare you. So you can tell them that, and many times that will help them agree. I think people just get freaked out, like, I'm meeting with somebody and this is getting real. So just reminding them, remember, you said you want to go to Denver to live with your family and watch your grandkids grow up. We're just meeting to have a game plan to make that happen. It does not mean you're doing it tomorrow. And that usually works really well. Okay, awesome. Analeisa, anything else to add to finish this out?
No, except I'm so glad everybody's here, and hopefully y'all have learned a ton today. And please reach out if you have more questions.
Yep. So go to isamapscoaching.com. Webinars tab will bring you to more of these. ISA program will tell you how it works. And then last thing, there's a Facebook group. I think a lot of you are probably in there. I think that's how a lot of you know about this webinar. There is a Facebook group called ISA, Inside Sales Agent, ISA Mastermind Group. And it's called ISA Mastermind Group. However, it really is a lead gen, lead conversion mastermind group. So if you're a listing agent, if you're a buyer agent, feel free to join. There are some questions you need to answer. I won't let you in the group, but so make sure you answer the questions. And that's another resource for you. Okay. What about appointment cancellations real quick? Okay, we'll answer that real fast. We'll give you an extra minute. So what do you do if somebody cancels, Analeisa?
Honestly, it's situational. If the ISA had really amazing rapport, like Anna built such great rapport on the phone, if they canceled before I ever got in front of them, I'm going to say, Anna, who's the best person here to deal with this? If it's me, great, but you probably have the rapport, so let's get it back on the calendar. So it's very situational who handles it. That's why you got to have awesome communication between your team.
Yeah, and we didn't go deep on this today. If you go to the webinars tab, you'll see a webinar on digging for motivation. We didn't really touch that at all today, but really that's where it's at. I would call and say, hey, Analeisa, I just want to make sure you're okay. Because you had told me that you wanted to move to Denver to live closer to your grandkids and that was really important to you. You also wanted to downsize so you could travel. So call me back so we can make that happen. I'm not calling like, hey, you didn't no-show for our appointment, or hey, we were going to talk about the house. That's boring, right? I don't actually know anyone that loves talking about pricing their house. I don't know anybody that just loves that conversation. I know people that love talking about their motivation. It's kind of like I had ACL replacement surgery 2 years ago. Well, when I went to the doctor, if he had said to me, hey, how soon do you want me to cut your knee and replace your ACL? I would have said, get away from me, you crazy person. I don't ever want to do that. But what he said is, hey, Anna, how soon would you like to get back to weightlifting and kayaking and hiking? Because that's what I love to do. Well, okay, I'll do that tomorrow. So when you call someone to address the fact that they canceled, or if they're trying to reschedule or something, just say, hey, I know that motivation was really important to you. Just talk to me about what's going on. And that is usually your best starting place. So it's really just putting the motivation back in front of them. Okay, we're out of time. If you have more questions, go to isamapscoaching.com, click on the button that says talk to a coach, and you'll get one of us. And we will see you guys next time. Have a great day.